Okay, we're back with 24-0521, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. We're going to be hearing from the Environmental Control Board. I am Danielle McCray, Councilwoman for the 2nd District. I will be co-chairing the hearing at this time. We also have, to my left, Councilman Ryan Dorsey representing the 3rd District. And to my right, we have Councilwoman Felicia Porter representing the 10th District.
Thank you,
ma'am. Again, we're here to hear the Environmental Control Board at this time, and I missed a few. We have our staff to the committee, which is Nia Garrett, and we also have representing the Council President's Office, Preston Lewis, here today. For the agency and any additional speakers, if you could just introduce yourself and the agency you're with for the record at this time before we begin your presentation.
I apologize. Okay. My name is Brittany Vendries. I'm the Executive Director of the Environmental Control Board. I'm the only ECB representative here today.
So whenever you're ready, we can get started with your presentation.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Good morning. Again, I'm Brittany Vendries, the director, and I might as well just move forward. So just to give a quick overview of what the agency does, because I think it provides some context with regard to the budget. We are an administrative hearing board, and we hear people that want to contest environmental citations primarily. So citations are issued by a number of city agencies, predominantly housing, but also fire, transportation, health department. And when someone receives these citations, it functions a lot like a ticket. You can either pay the citation or you can contest it. So the ECB is a neutral party in this. We're a neutral and independent agency that hears these hearings, or hears these, contested citations. And our hearing process is pretty simple. It's formatted after the district court. So we do have a judicial field to us, but we are not in fact a court. We are run by hearing officers, and it is a relaxed, informal hearing process. So it's under oath, it's recorded, but we do try and treat it as a more conversational approach to these issues and not quite so adversarial. So in the hearing process, the issuing agency can present their case, show their pictures, whatever the violation is. The person who received the citation has an opportunity to present their case, whatever their testimony is, and then an ECB hearing officer will then make a determination as to whether the violation actually occurred and what the fine should be. They can reduce the fine amount, they can dismiss it entirely just based on what was presented to them. So I do like to put that forward because people think that we issue the citations, they get very upset, but we don't issue the citation. We play no role in that because it would impact our ability to be fair and independent in the hearing process. So the main thing we do is adjudicate the citations, but we also hear appeals for water bill disputes. We also hear water for all denials. Those do have to kind of go through their natural process at DPW, all the way through to their water advocate's office before it can come to us. Besides the adjudication piece, we also have Be More Beautiful, which is our grassroots community programming. And basically, we support communities with their cleaning and greening efforts, predominantly through grants. We have a few grant programs. We also connect people with volunteers. We connect them with city services. So they want to do a cleanup, but they need a large dumpster. We would connect them to somebody at DPW. If they have issues with the permitting process, we connect them with that particular person. So that's our other kind of larger thing that we do at the ECB besides the adjudication piece. So specific to the fiscal goals, we do have 2 goals that I wanted to highlight, one on the adjudication side and one on the Be More Beautiful side. So starting with Activate Your Space is seasonal programming that we've only been able to do with outside grant funding. So we've run it about twice. We're currently doing it now thanks to funding from Bloomberg Philanthropies. And what we do is that we give people larger grants so that they can make big transformations in their space. The transformations are supposed to be specific to criminal prevention techniques, so things that allow for clean sight lines, things that allow for better lighting, stuff like that. And again, it's thanks to Bloomberg's grant that we're able to give people this money to make these kind of big transformations. What we want to do this fiscal year, or fiscal 25, is we want to bring that program in-house so that we can offer it permanently on a year-to-year basis. So we carved out some money from our existing budget just to make this a stand-in always at the ECB. It's going to be smaller because we won't be getting $200,000 from Bloomberg, but we will at least have 40,000. We also did apply for additional funding from the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, so we can hopefully supplement that, offer more grants with a bigger pot of money. But that's our first goal, is to make Activate Your Space a permanent fixture at the ECB. Our second goal is to bolster the collections efforts. So most of our citations are liens. They're enforced at the tax sale, but there are citations that are non-liens, which means that they don't attach to property. So we're talking about things like sale of cigarettes to an underage person. We're talking about animal control citations, things like that, where the basis is chattel or the pet. Those aren't collected through tax sale. So we have to make sure that we're going through the court system to file suit in order to get a collection effort going on. So the collections effort has been in partnership with the Law Department and Bureau of Revenue Collection at Finance for a few years, but it has dwindled down just based on a lack of staffing, ransomware, COVID, all kinds of historical things. So what I want to do is I want to kind of infuse a new life into it. DPW has agreed to go half on a paralegal with me, so we're hoping to hire a paralegal. If you saw our organizational chart, we have a Secretary 2 position. That's going to be reclassified into a paralegal position, and they'll take over the water bill appeal process in addition to the collections effort. We started doing a collections management program or system the day before ransomware, so that got derailed immediately. So we would come back to that. We would create some sort of formalized tracking system to make sure that all those cases are moving forward, we know the status, and that we're actually getting some enforcement for these types of citations. So those are our two kind of big goals for FY25, the collections piece with a paralegal and Activate Your Space and bringing it in. We're little. So our main service is adjudication of environmental citations, and I will see Be More Beautiful does fall under that. It has its own separate cost center. So I'll just move over to the performance measures. So the first performance measure, percentage of first hearing scheduled within 60 days, that is a long-standing performance measure. We've had it for years, and I think it's an important one. So this is the time between the hearing request is received and the time that it's actually scheduled. So we try to make it a pretty quick turnaround, because otherwise people, they get concerned, they're worried that, they haven't heard anything, they might, freak out and pay it, and we don't want them to pay it. Payment's an admission. If you want to contest it, you need to have your hearing. So we try and schedule them pretty fast. You can see there was a big dip, and that is right around COVID time. So we were able to kind of claw ourselves back out of that. We had, I think, a 2,000 citation backlog, so it was pretty significant. And now we're at 93% for FY23 actuals. So our target's 90%. I do think that's a feasible target. It will never be 100%, just because sometimes a respondent can't be heard in the first 60 days. They're going out of the country. They're in the hospital. All kinds of stuff that kind of comes up in their lives, and we try to work around, if they tell us this is happening, work around what they already have scheduled. The other big thing that impacts it is diversion. The diversion program is for first-time recipients of a citation, low-level offenses, but we give the community liaison some time to call people and offer them that diversion, and we try and call them 3 or 4 times, and that eats into the 60 days before we can actually get scheduled if we can't get in contact with that person to do the diversion. So those are the two main reasons why we won't be within 60 days, but 90% of the time, hopefully above that, we are able to get people scheduled pretty quickly. The average number of days for a hearing officer to respond to assigned correspondence. This is a new one, which is why there's a lot of not applicable. So if somebody submits a request to us, and we ask that all requests be in writing so that we have a tangible record of what happened, so either an email or a fax or a letter, however people feel most comfortable getting to us, getting information or requests to us. If it is a request that is no longer eligible for a hearing, they missed their hearing date and they want a new hearing date, or their hearing rights have expired but they want some sort of resolution, they're looking for a settlement, they just want it to be reviewed, something, we would assign that to a hearing officer to review. So the reason why it's a 14-day time frame is because A, these are not emergent request most times because there is no hearing date looming. They haven't turned in anything in time for a hearing. Again, these are all after the hearing, potential hearing date or the deadline. And the other thing is sometimes we have to work with other agencies to get that information. So if they say, you know, I made a payment and it's not there and I don't know what happened, now we have to reach out to finance and say, can you find this payment? Maybe it was misapplied, maybe they didn't make it, maybe it was reversed, all kinds of stuff. So we have to wait to get information back. Issues with the mailing address, we have to contact DOT's property location office. And granted, these agencies are actually very responsive to me. I really haven't had much issue getting responses from our partnering agencies, but we do build in that time to make sure that we can get a response back, figure out how it works with the citation, find a resolution, and turn it back to them. So we've always tracked what goes out and comes in, but now we're actually tracking the days as well, and we'll be able to report that out. And hopefully, as we have a few years of trends, we'll be able to update targets that make more sense. The 14 days is as we figure things out, but I would say we are likely well under that 14 days. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
I have a quick question. The state grant that you spoke about earlier in your presentation, when would you know if you're going to be awarded that grant?
For Activate Your Space?
Yes, you said that there was a grant with the Maryland Department of Housing.
Oh, I'm not sure. We submitted, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago. So last year, I don't know if we found out until the fall. Because we currently have a grant for them to fund our garden coordinator. And I believe we found out in the fall. So that is my guess, that we'll find out by the fall if we get that grant money. But either way, we still hope to move forward with Activate Your Space, just at a smaller scale. And that grant money from housing, again, the state grant, we're hoping to use that also for a urban gardening workshop, which is another part of Bloomberg money. They're giving us $92,000-ish to do urban gardening.
And Councilwoman McCray, in the event that ECB receives that state grant,
Could you just give us your name, position, just for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Laura Larson, Budget Director. In the event that ECB receives notification that they are successful in receiving that state grant, we will have to bring that back through a supplemental that will require BOE and City Council approval. So you all would see that item if they are successful in receiving the grant.
Okay, hopefully they're successful in getting a grant. I'm going to go to Councilman Ron Dorsey.
Thank you. I'm curious about the outstanding non-lienable citations. Do you have an account of how much is outstanding?
For non-liens, no, I don't. I can find out for you if you gave me like a time frame of, over the past year or what it would be.
I didn't realize that ECB was engaged in collections efforts.
Yes. When I came into the city about 8 years ago, that's how I started. I started at the law department doing collections efforts for environmental citations, particularly for non-liens.
You said you started in the law department.
I did. 8 years ago.
So, and there's still law department staff assisting with this, but
Yes.
when you started 8 years ago, was ECB leading collections efforts?
ECB, because my understanding was that all the suits had to be filed through the law department. So what we did was we had ECB vetting citations for collections and sending it through to the law department and to the Bureau of Revenue Collections. The Bureau of Revenue Collections has a suits section. So the suits section would draft the actual lawsuit, law department would go to BRC, we would review the suits, we would sign off on the suits, and we would have them filed. ECB would be brought back in to be a witness to the case. So Rebecca Woods, the former director, was my witness for those collections cases back in 2016. This
seems like a strange process to me. I don't understand, if DHCD is issuing a citation, or the health department is issuing a citation, or other entity, how come it's not going back? I mean, honestly, it shouldn't even be on them to pursue it. Why does ECB have to be involved at all? I don't understand that.
It's the way it's written into the city code. Under Article 1, Section 40, it says the board is responsible for collections efforts. So that's kind of how we got roped in. So we treat it, a citation, by the time we get to the court process, we treat it as a bill, a collections process on bill.
Yeah.
Because if the citation is in default, the presumption is that the violation is valid. So at that point, we're just collecting against the bill, and the bill is issued by the ECB. So we would be testifying to the validity of the bill and not necessarily the underlying violation.
Right. So how old are, like, the oldest of the outstanding ones that you're filing at this point?
They have to be within a year of issuance. That's the statute of limitations for the collection of this kind of bill.
But once you've, how long does it take to typically resolve one once filed?
It depends, because you have to, I mean, it's just general court process, so you have to get service of process, and so sometimes it just takes a while to serve people. So it depends on how quickly we can kind of get our hands on someone. Oh, that sounds terrible, but how quickly we can get someone served. And then, of course, it's just up to the court process and having it scheduled.
Do you rely on contractual process serving? Or do you do that in-house?
That I don't know anymore, because that's all done through the law department. When I was there, they had someone that they contracted with. Primarily, they would start by certified mail, because that's an acceptable version of service of process, and then they would escalate it to the service processor. But that was my experience when I was with the law department years ago.
And these are only for, are these only for collections of citations that were contested, or any citation that goes unpaid?
Any citation that goes unpaid. The lienable citations, again, would go through tax sales. So these are unpaid non-liens that can be, that will go through this collections process. We could sue on lienable citations as well. That would be up to the law department. They've done that before, usually using like the tax sale certificate and just suing on everything there, because it's all consolidated into one particular document. So it
And
makes
so
it
you
easier.
only assist, ECB only assists with the ones that are non-lienable?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to know an account of what's presently outstanding, and I don't know, how do you account for it, like on a how much is pursued annually?
We haven't been able to do this for a long time. So I don't have anything for you in terms of what we haven't been, everything that we had was lost with ransomware, because we used to have a spreadsheet tracking system where we would track everything, what was outstanding. And all of that left with ransomware. I think I mentioned earlier, the day after I met with IT, it all
I see.
disappeared.
Maybe
So
I missed that in your presentation. I didn't understand that you had, so you
apologize.
haven't been doing this?
No, we haven't had the staffing to do it. We tried to create a case management system, and unfortunately that didn't happen. So my hope was to get the paralegal to restart this entire process so that we can put forward a collection process. I apologize if I was unclear. I do apologize.
It's all right. Okay, now I understand. So you're anticipating getting this up and this collection system
Yes.
up and running in FY25? Not.
Yes.
It's not that.
Yes,
I
yes,
see.
yes.
Yeah, if you could just account for, I mean, you do have some account of what you're going to be pursuing, right?
Sure.
Yeah, if you can just give us an account of what's there outstanding, you know, kind of what's on the line that you're going to be pursuing at this time.
Absolutely.
So Councilman, you'd be looking for a summary of what is currently outstanding in terms of citations, both in terms of dollar value and then just like count of citations?
Sure, non-lienable specifically.
Non-lienable.
Yeah, because that's all that ECB is going to be handling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, just for context, on the general fund revenue side, in fiscal '25, we're assuming $6.3 million in revenue from Environmental Control Board citations. In fiscal '23, the actual was $7.7 million.
Okay,
So, additional context.
okay, great, thanks. But that's not, we don't have a breakdown in the book of like lienable versus non-lienable, right?
No, because all of that is rolling up into one revenue category that's presented as Environmental Control Board citations.
Yeah, I'm interested in the non-lienable ones because we have the tax sale system, for better or worse, you know, we have that and other tools to try to address the lienable ones. If this is our kind of only avenue for certain ones, I want to know what portion.
Understood.
Cool. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair?
Director, for this particular committee request, how long would it take you to get Councilman Dorsey, what he's requested?
I will defer to the Environmental Control Board.
So I would have to put in a request with Baltimore City's IT system, because they run our system, agency, because they run our system, and they would have to pull those numbers for me. So it depends on them. They're usually pretty fast in terms of turnaround, so I would hope a couple of days, hopefully within the week.
So if we say Wednesday, June the 12th,
Oh, probably.
would that be okay?
I would think so. I mean,
Okay.
I'm speaking on behalf of another agency, but I've never had to wait that long for a report. I believe that would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilwoman Porter? Okay, no questions. Councilman Dorsey, did you have any additional questions? I don't think so. Okay. We thank you for your presentation and for answering our questions, and we do have one more question from Councilman Dorsey. You have the floor, sir.
How many, what's the dollar amount around citations that were abated through the first-time diversion program?
That were paid out. I definitely don't know. I think we've done about 200 diversion cases, maybe more. That would take a little bit of math, but that we can find out too if you'd like to know.
I think it'd be, like the chair and I said, we didn't know about this program until we knew about this program. I didn't know about it until I was issued a citation and went through it myself. I tell people about it all the time now, and I think it would be really nice to be able to say that this program kept citizens of Baltimore from having to pay out X number of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in citations last year, because we are compassionate and understanding of, you know, whatever it is that leads to somebody getting their first ever city citation. So I'd like an account of the total diverted, you know, whatever in the last year, through this first time citation diversion program.
Okay.
Okay, that's really all. Thank you.
So you want the last calendar year? Calendar year?
Sure, last calendar year, that'll work.
Would that be able to be done within the same timeline, or?
It would be the same thing, making a request to IT for the report. So I would assume so.
Okay, so we'll just say Wednesday, the 12th as well for this request.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And thanks again for the presentation. And like Councilman Dorsey said, today was the first that I learned about the diversion program, and I think that it is a great program, especially when someone needs to mitigate a citation and it's their first time. It's their first time. So thank you guys for being creative about that one. We are going to recess at this time, and we will be back at 1 p.m.
Okay.
today. Thank you.
So much. I appreciate it.